Thor here, and this episode is going to be a little bit different. This episode is going to be about a horse named Solo, who was rescued from Navajo Canyon. To start out with, I want to make a distinction. Solo, like the rest of the horses in this video, are not wild horses. They are feral horses. The difference between a wild horse and a feral horse is that wild horses are horses that have never been domesticated, while feral horses are descendants from domesticated horses, or horses that have escaped or been abandoned to the wild. In fact, all wild horses in America are technically feral domesticated horses. However, some populations of American horses are considered wild. These populations exist in locations that can support them adequately and not destroy the local environment. Solo and the herd in this video are not among those groups. The reason I bring this up is because some people believe what was happening was natural and to let nature take its course. Unfortunately, that is not the case, as this is a man-made issue. While no individual can be held accountable, at least not at this point in time, it is humanity's responsibility to ensure these animals do not suffer and are returned to their domesticated roots. In other words, abandoning these animals is animal abuse, as you are about to see. The only moral option for these animals is to rescue them and reintegrate them into full domestication. Other options might be a necessary evil like euthanizing them. Allowing animals, particularly feral animals, to die of starvation is cruel and immoral. Fortunately, that was not the case for this particular horse. To begin with, Solo was part of a larger herd. I believe there was a total of 8 horses in this herd, including Solo. I do not know if Solo was part of the herd of horses that was stuck in Navajo Canyon from the year before, whereas 2 horses were rescued, a mare named Emma and her baby Marina. Both were sent to Horse Haven and are doing well. It is likely that the 2 herds knew of one another, but it's impossible to say. The only thing I know for certain is both herds ended up stuck in Navajo Canyon. The reason horses keep getting stuck in Navajo Canyon has a lot to do with Lake Powell's fluctuating water levels. When the water goes down, wildlife and feral animals will make their way into the canyons for the abundant food and water that they provide. When the water comes up during spring, the animals can become stranded on islands or outcroppings. Furthermore, the deltas, which are where the streams in the canyons join the lake, can bring in silt and mud, making them impassable. Many animals have become trapped in Lake Powell's canyons due to this, including bighorn sheep, cows, and of course horses. It is said Antelope Island was named after a herd of antelope that was stranded there when Lake Powell originally was filled, so this is not a new phenomenon. It's also not exclusive to Navajo Canyon. However, the last 2 times horses have needed rescuing has been in Navajo Canyon. Now with the how, where, and why out of the way, here's the story. Solo belonged to a larger herd. I had actually found her herd in July of 2023 when I did an update on Navajo Canyon. Back then I did not realize that the herd was stranded or in danger. Many people didn't. I presumed that the herd had a way up and down the cliff walls that make up Navajo Canyon. Unfortunately, that was not the case. In this instance, the horse was too far away for me to make out the general health of the animal, so I didn't have any indication that the animal was starving or in peril. Later on, me and my father were recreating on our jet skis up Navajo Canyon, where we stopped for a break and noticed Solo. Thus began the saga of Solo's rescue. I noted the horse to my father, and we both noticed she was rather small and malnourished. My father, Clint, made a point that my mother, Debbie, should be made aware. I had taken several photos of her at that point in time. Unfortunately, that cell phone was lost when it made its way to John Powell's locker during an unfortunate work-related incident, so I'm not able to show my original photos, unfortunately. My mother is an avid animal rescuer. She normally takes part in dog rescue and has successfully rescued and homed more dogs than I can remember. She is also a horse enthusiast, although I think that is a bit of an undersell. She has had horses her entire life. As soon as me and my father were back into reception after leaving Navajo Canyon, my father told Debbie about the horse. From that moment on, she was on a mission that none of us would have expected to last well over a year, hundreds of man-hours, and cost my family thousands of dollars. Unfortunately, rescue was not a straightforward process. At the time, rescue agencies were unwilling or unable to help. This was due to the mountain of red tape and bureaucracy that had to be cut through. But as the Bible says in Mark 11:23-24, Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Be lifted up and thrown into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes what he says will happen, it will be done for him." Well, if anyone could stand in that level of faith, it is my mother. Debbie worked every day for over a year contacting rescue agencies and working with the governments to make this happen. The amount of stress this caused for her is something that really cannot be explained. Suffice to say, she lost a lot of sleep, and I do remember her crying several times because of it. Unfortunately, this stress spilled into me and my father, but not quite to the same extent as her. Regardless, without her efforts, the horse would not have made it. Furthermore, no one else ever stepped up to the plate and actually tried to bat. She really is the kingpin that made this happen. Fortunately, there was some support from early on. Since the horse could not be removed right away, the issue of bringing the horse food was a prominent one. The herd had depleted the resources, and wintertime would further remove more. The logistics of feeding a horse in Navajo Canyon were daunting and expensive. I had offered my vessel, but unfortunately my boat is old and hanging in there by a thread. Furthermore, due to ongoing engine issues, my vessel is very slow. So we had to find other boats. We used a couple, but ultimately Ty, the owner of Skylight Houseboat Management, stepped up. His primary workboat was well suited for the task and ironically had a name to match, the Lost Lady. Ty volunteered his time and his vessel. My family supplied the hay and fuel. I need to note that a few others helped out as well. Beach Bags and Up Lake Adventure helped a couple of times by letting us use their boats to transport hay. Dave provided some hay at first, but we supplied it after that. The local Ace and Paige had supplied some mineral blocks and feeding supplies. However, the overwhelming majority of this work was done by my family and Ty. Just about every month, Clinty, Debbie, and Ty and various volunteers would go all the way up to the back of Navajo Canyon to feed the horse. I went many times as well. We would load the hay onto the boat, normally about 10 to 12 bales. Then we would take the boat to State Line Launch and from there go all the way up to the back of Navajo Canyon, where we would deposit the bales with the horse and spread them around. So this is all the hay we brought for her. It's quite a bit actually, and we have some bales that we popped over here as well, so that way she has something to eat for a while. Brought her some minerals as well because, you know, horses are supposed to have minerals and mineral blocks and things like that. But yeah, this will help for a little while, but this isn't a permanent solution. Somebody needs to come rescue this horse. Not only that, but there's also a cow up lake a little bit more, up Navajo Canyon a little bit more. During our first run, we discovered a few things. For those of you with sensitivities, I must warn you that the upcoming scenes may be disturbing, as they involve the corpses of several dead animals. You have been warned. The first thing we discovered is that Solo's herd had died. We managed to find 7 corpses of other horses, including a young foal. All of these horses starved to death. This was the wrong outcome, and they did not deserve this. Solo was malnourished and not long off. She was extremely skinny and clearly starving to death. At the time, we believed she was still a yearling, or possibly still a filly, which is a female horse under the age of 4. This was due to her size, as she is a small horse. In hindsight, we did learn she was likely between 1 and 3 years old when we found her. Her small stature is likely why she outlived the rest of her herd, as it took less food for her to survive. It was also discovered that a cow was stuck just around the corner on a small outcropping. Unfortunately, the creek deltas had become too soft for either of them to walk out of the canyon, and after scouting, it was determined that the cliff walls were too steep for them to climb out. So down below me, you can see that's the cow that's stuck here in Navajo Canyon too. He can't get out either. He needs somebody to rescue him as well. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly how that's going to happen, but again, we've reached out to numerous different people and numerous different organizations, and nobody's offered to help. Nobody's been able to do anything. So yeah, we're going to drop off some food for him as well. Hopefully he'll sustain him for a little bit longer, but unfortunately it seems like there's no solution for these animals. We took care of the cow for several months as well. We took him hay and supplied him with a mineral block. Unfortunately, he did not make it. I discovered his body in the delta. He still had food on his peninsula, so I'm presuming he attempted to cross the delta and got stuck. It was apparent the cow had tried to cross it before, but the mud, clay, and silt was too deep and he had turned around. The cow was still a baby, so it's easy to recognize that if the delta could not support his weight, there's no chance the horse could make it back up. Fortunately, Lake Powell never got that low again, so her delta never reappeared and she never could attempt it. Once we started feeding the horse, she made a significant recovery and gained weight. Furthermore, she became used to us. I wouldn't say she was friendly by any stretch of the word. In fact, she had kicked someone who attempted to touch her during one of our feeding runs. But in time, she appeared to learn the sound of Ty's boat, the Lost Lady, and would enthusiastically come to greet us and eat the new food we would put out for her. My mom would always go near her and talk to her, which from my perspective was the cutest thing ever. I would have recorded it, but suffice to say cameras are too inferior to handle my mother's beauty, so I tend to leave her out of the shot. In other words, she really prefers not to be on camera, which was quite the surprise to me when she agreed to do an interview for the news and allowed me to have her in this video. I love my mom and respect her a lot, so I'm really grateful she allowed me to do this. During this time, I wanted to make a video to raise funds to support these efforts. As a matter of fact, I had recorded one. The financial aspect was a significant burden. My father paid for the overwhelming majority of this, and he worked literally 3 jobs to make this happen. It was decided that we did not want to create a GoFundMe or ask for financial support at the time for several reasons. Number 1, we honestly did not know if we were going to be able to rescue the horse or not. After all, we did fail at rescuing the cow. Furthermore, asking for support at that time may have hindered the process. The thoughts were, while unlikely, if someone had seen successful fundraising, they may have decided to get involved to try to get money or to do their own fundraising. Furthermore, this could have created red tape and strained already hard to get resources, particularly government resources like government time. From the very beginning, this was not about the money. It was decided that if people wanted to support this, they could help recoup the losses after the rescue was done, so all would be done in good faith. So to that extent, I will include a GoFundMe in the description of this video or on posts. My father and of course everyone involved will greatly appreciate the support. I would personally like to say thank you in advance to anyone who decides to support us. We made some significant sacrifices to make this happen. You can also support Horsehaven as well. They had a lot to do in the final weeks leading to her rescue, and I will be covering that shortly. After over a year of Debbie cutting through red tape and feeding the horse every month, Debbie had managed to create a rescue plan, gather individuals, and get approval from National Park Service and the Navajo Nation as well as meet all of their requirements. It was decided that the horse sanctuary would take the horse for rehab, training, and possibly homing. Some have asked why the horse was not released to the wild. Well, as mentioned before, she is not a wild horse. It has also been asked why she was not released to the Navajo Nation. This is because the Navajo Nation decided to release the horse to Debbie and asked not to bring the horse back. NPS required that the horse be loaded into a trailer early on. Again, my mother and my family rose to the occasion and paid for a trailer. The trailer had to be customized and rebuilt so that it would be able to fit on the rescue boat. A special thanks to Todd and Maven for restoring and modifying, as well as supplying the materials for the trailer's restoration and rebuild. This was the same requirement when the previous horse had been rescued. Once the green light had been given, things happened quickly. Debbie managed to organize everyone involved into a rescue team. She worked closely with Horsehaven to organize and plot the rescue operation. Jen was the lead to the prior horse rescue from Navajo Canyon, and she was instrumental in providing the experience, knowledge, and plan for how to handle the horse during the rescue. Ty from Skylight Houseboat Management brought forth his resources, including his vessel and crew, to not only assist the rescue operation, but to set up the panels a few days before. I want to personally say thank you to a couple friends of mine, Jesse and Steve, for helping with that, and of course, thank you, Ty, for helping all this time. Lake Powell beach bags also helped, as Deborah and Jeff were instrumental. They provided a landing vessel as well as crew to help and assist during the rescue. We met up with them prior to the day of rescue to load the custom horse trailer, and I will admit it was really cool seeing the trailer on one of Lake Powell beach bags' boats. National Park Service sent 2 of their rangers to assist in case of emergency. I should note the park rangers have always been enthusiastic and supportive about recovering the horses from the very beginning. The day of the rescue started off really early. People showed up with trailers, supplies, and boats. I showed up with my lowrider t-shirt, my camera, as well as a few extra batteries. Unfortunately, I was not able to bring my dog, which was a total deal breaker for me, but I forced myself to go anyways. Once the boats were loaded into the water and the people gathered, my mother, Debbie, had the task of kicking off the morning meeting, with introductions and a basic overview of the day. Several others took part to explain their roles. Jen explained the rescue plan, and Jim explained the medical plan. I have never been a fan of meetings. Everything felt awkward, just like all the corporate mandated morningly meetings I went to when I worked in the hospital taking care of the mentally insane. So this was definitely the worst part for me, other than leaving my dog behind. I just can't seem to get over that. And since this is my documentary, I get to show you as many pictures of my dog as I want. Like this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Oh, and especially this one. Anyways, moving on. Once the morningly meeting was over, everyone boarded the boats. It was a really cold ride to Navajo Canyon, and I will say the park rangers definitely had the best boat for this occasion. At least it was enclosed, and I wish I could have gone on that boat. I resided on the Lost Lady. We ran in front because the plan was for us to show up and then coax Solo into the pen that was set up several days before. She knew us and the boat, so she would be less nervous if we did that part first. My mother, Debbie, was able to call for Solo and surprisingly get her into the pen. Everything went off without a hitch. Once Solo was enclosed in the pen, a tranquilizer dart was used to sedate her. Bonnie's shot was perfect. This was done to make it so Solo would not panic and remain calm throughout the entire process. This also meant that during this process, everyone involved had to remain extremely calm and quiet. Fortunately, it worked. The next part of the process involved bringing in Lake Powell Beach Bag's landing boat and positioning it. Once in position, the panels were gradually removed to reduce the size of the pin. After that, the pin was slowly moved with Solo in the middle towards the boat. Panels were repurposed to create a guide up the boat's landing ramp and into the trailer. Once close, the pin was connected to the loading ramp. This is where things slowed down quite a bit. In fact, getting Solo up the ramp and into the trailer took over 2 hours. This is because rather than force the animal up the ramp, Jen gave Solo time and gently guided Solo up the ramp. Flags and gentle nudges were used to help Solo go up the ramp. During this time, she turned around, but fortunately she was able to back into the trailer, which ended up working out really well. Emily and Jeremiah quickly closed the door, locking her in, and everything went off without incidents. I can safely say that this part of the journey was definitely the most intense. Once the door was closed and the trailer cover put down, everyone was relieved and celebrated just a little.
It's going to be easier to unload her this way. Absolutely. She'll walk more quickly.
I think so too.
Let's put the top down.
Of course, the journey was not over. The horse still had to go to State Line Launch and be loaded into another trailer to be taken to Horse Haven. So we actually managed to get her in the boat. She's there. This boat has 1 extra horsepower today. Ty's boat and crew stayed behind to load the panels and supplies while Beach Bag's boat carried away its special cargo. The park rangers followed. The vessel was able to go up on plane and return quickly. This was done on purpose so the horse would not need to be sedated more. Also, the small trailer helped by giving Solo support so she did not fall. It was a really good feeling having her on board, and everyone was very enthusiastic. The only thing of note that happened on the way back was Solo, how does one say, let loose a majestic waterfall that went right through the trailer's seams and onto the boat's deck. It is quite possible that some people were lightly splashed. Once at the loading ramp, the boat was connected to the trailer. A strange combination to see considering the circumstances. It was sensible. It took a bit of time for Solo to make her way out of the boat and into the trailer. Fun fact, at this time she took food from my father's hand, which was kind of awesome. After a bit of gentle coaxing, she finally went into the horse trailer, where she would see Lake Powell for the last time. Her destination? Horse Haven. This might sound strange, but she had not stepped a single foot on land since Navajo Canyon. So the next time her hoof touched the ground was when she was offloaded at Horse Haven. It is also interesting to note that this would be the first time she had seen another horse in over a year. While it likely did not mean much to Solo, we would like to think that Solo saw Emma on her way to her pen as Solo's trailer passed Emma in Horse Haven. In a small way, a small reunion of 2 horses with the same story. So I think that's it for the day. Looks like she is at the rescue and very interested in seeing the other horses. Solo now remains at Horse Haven, where she is being cared for as well as tamed and trained under Anne's years of experience dealing with these types of horses. Anne is the adoption coordinator and a horse trainer at Horse Haven. Anne has also helped my mother get some closure throughout this process, of which me and my family are very grateful for. I would like to give a special thank you to all the people that were involved. Some people decided to remain anonymous, so they will not be in this list, but it does not depreciate their value in any way. Again, thank you. I apologize if I missed any names. In the meantime, thank you to everyone who watched this video. You are now part of the journey as well. If anyone wants to support me personally so I can make more content like this, check me out on Patreon, link in the description. If you want to support my family and those involved in the rescue, I will be setting up a GoFundMe and putting that link in the description as well. Of course, you can also support Horsehaven too through their website. So until next time, this is Thor, signing out.